like to open this service by asking Rabbi Tully Hartstark to lead a parak of Tehillim, chapter of Psalms.
Ashrei ha'ish asher lo halach b'atzat risha'im uv'derech hata'im lo amad uv'moshav litzim lo yashav ki im b'torat Adonai chefzo uv'torato yegeh yamam v'layla v'haya ke'etz shatua palgi mayim asher piryo yitain b'ito ve'alehu lo yibol v'chol asher yaseh yatzliach lo chen harsha'im ki im kamotz asher tidfenu ruach al ken lo yakumu risha'im b'mishpat v'chata'im b'adat tzadikim, ki yodea Adonai derech tzadikim v'derech risha'im toved. Happy is the one who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, who does not stand on the path of sinners, who does not sit among the jeering cynics. Instead, the Lord's teaching is all his desire, and he contemplates that teaching day and night. He's like a tree planted on streams of water, yielding fruit in its season, its leaves never withering. All it produces thrives. Not so the wicked, they are like chaff blown away by the wind. Therefore, the wicked will not endure judgment, nor the sinners among the righteous crowd. For the Lord cares for the way of the righteous, while the way of the wicked will be lost forever.
Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echsar, binot deshe yarbitzeni, al mei menuchot yenahaleni. Nafshi yeshovev yancheni b'ma'aglei tzedek l'ma'an shemo. Gam ki elech b'geit salmavet lo irara ki ata imadi. Shivtecha umishantecha hema yenachamuni. Ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged tzorai, dishanta b'shemen roshi, kosi revaya. Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni, Kol Yemei Chayai, V'shavti B'vet Adonai L'orech Yamim. A Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He lets me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He refreshes my soul, guiding me along the right paths for the sake of his name. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff encourage me. You set a table before me in the face of my foes. You anoint my head with oil. My cup brims over. May only goodness and kindness follow me all the days of my life. Let me live in the Lord's house forevermore.
Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai mi yogor balecha, mi yashkom bahar kodshecha, holech tamim, poel tzedek, dover emes belivro, v'lo ragal al lashano, lo asa l'reo ra'ah, v'cherpa lo nasa akravo, nivzeh be'inav nim'as, v'es yirei Adonai yichabed, nishpal l'hara v'lo yamir. Kaspo v'lo nasa meneshech, v'shochat al naki lo lakach, oseh ileh lo yimot le'olam. A Psalm of David. Lord, who may dwell in your tent, who may live on your holy mountain, the one whose ways are blameless, who does what is right, who speaks truth from the heart, the one who has no malice on his tongue, who does no wrong to his fellow, who does not cast a slur against his neighbor, the one who scorns those who are vile, who honors those who fear the Lord, who keeps an oath even when it hurts, the one who does not loan money for interest, who does not take a bribe against the innocent. Anyone who acts thus will never be shaken.
There are some people who we truly believe will live forever because they're such a constant presence in our lives. Eish tamid tukar al hamizbeach lo tichbeh. Among all of the beautiful and all of the functional ritual items in the temple and in every sanctuary, it's the tiny Ner Tamid, the small, constant source of light that is never allowed to be extinguished. The Mikdash Ma'at, the mini, not so mini, sanctuary of SAR, had Sally Oshins, Saratova, Batvel V'Chana as our Ner Tamid, our consistent source of light for 48 years. I walked into school this morning, ushering in a new school year. I walked past an empty desk, and I saw Deborah Ice, her neighbor of 12 years, just weeping to herself, missing our beloved Sally. And the sanctuary that was your home, the home that quietly modeled love and commitment together for 76 years, married for the last 67. Excuse me? 8. She would have corrected me too. Can you think of a more constant source of energy and light than that? Yet today on Rosh Chodesh Elul, we begin the month of Elul, we begin the month of reflection, we think about ushering in a year of renewal, and we feel that our Ner Tamid has been extinguished. Rabbi Fuld, principal of SAR, when I was a student there, he shared that Rabbi Schwat, the first principal of SAR, Zichrono Livracha, he would walk into the office, and when he would see Sally, he would start singing, Sally Sudati, my rock, my fortress. How true that has been for our community and for this family. Truly a rock and a fortress for so long. The strength and that impact didn't come through big pronouncements or a loud voice, although when she said, please move your car, you got up. It comes through consistency. It comes through constantly showing up, constantly and generally quietly finding holiness and purpose in your daily routine, in a routine that you know is serving thousands of kids and their families in the most basic but also the most significant ways, keeping them safe, keeping them clothed and fed, keeping them connected to their families. And for Sally, it started with her own family. Elul stands for Ani L'Dodi V'Dodi Li, that simple yet foundational model of a relationship where two people love each other, care for each other, feel each other's joy and their pain. Started with Sally and David, it extended to Jody and Donald and Rod and Vicky and to Carly, Julie, Emily, Jake, Ben, and Marley. I was so moved to visit your home the other night and to see how one Eish Tamid, one constant source of light, can create a family that is so loving, so modestly strong, so close with each other. That quiet strength, tenacity, love of life, and love of each other coming through at this time of tremendous loss and pain. What does Sally Umtsudati look like on a daily basis? I opened a Google Doc. I asked some people that worked with her over the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years. They talked about her remarkable memory. She knew your zip code. She knew your phone number. She had a Rolodex, but she didn't need to use it much. She never used a computer. She was the institutional memory of SAR. Oh, did we honor this person in 1976? Oh, where was the business office before it was in the copy room? She knew everything, and she loved that place. And she loved being asked those trivia questions. She cared about each student, excuse me, as if they were her own. She would not leave the building until every student was taken care of, knew how they were getting home. There was one piece of feedback that Deborah and I had to give over the last 20 years. And when we heard her say on the phone to a nervous mother, "We have not yet lost a child," we tried to come up with some alternatives. We have lost children, but we find them. But everyone knew that when she picked up the phone, their kids would be taken care of. She proofread documents. She signed diplomas, which were not signed this year until the 11th hour because, you're right, it didn't work. She wasn't strong enough to sign them for the first time for our president, Jack Bentine. She called herself, apparently, Eagle Seagull, a nod to her maiden name, to make sure that every address and every envelope had the correct label. She ordered school supplies and cared about the school's finances like her own. Somebody just told me last night that she was ordering from Staples a couple of folders. She said 79 cents is not okay. 59 cents. And then the question was like, how many folders did we just order? 2. But that was holy money, and that was her holy job, and she cared deeply about it. And every day she sat and she had lunch with her beloved David. Salad made by David. And you just saw how they connected with each other and loved each other. Rabbi Cohen shared that since he departed SAR in 2005, every time he would come back to the building, there was one staple. Lots of things changed, lots of classrooms moved, lots of people came and went, but Sally was always there. Michael Schreck, Zichrono Livracha, families represented here today, worked so closely with her when the business office was in the copy room, doing everything that needed to be done, from lunch to preparing for dinners to scholarships to taking care of kids. Her workout was, that's right, the steps. The whole thing. All the way down and all the way up the steps at the end of school to keep herself fit. So many memories, so many things to share, so many things that'll be missed as we start a new school year. David, Jody, and Donald, Rod, and Vicky, and your children. I know how hard it is to seem or to feel like a light has been extinguished. And it's hard to bring comfort on a day that is so raw and so new. I'd like to leave you with one thought. Rosh Chodesh Elul, what happened today was that Moshe went up to Har Sinai, to Mount Sinai, the third time. On the first time, he got the Torah and delivered it to Bnei Israel. And then he had his first crisis because of the sin of the golden calf. He broke the tablets. He went up again to ask for forgiveness. And today, he went up the third time, not to ask for forgiveness, but to demand it, to be a fierce advocate for people who needed advocacy, and not to accept no for an answer until God said, famously on Yom Kippur, 40 days from now, Vayomer Hashem, Salachti Kidvarecha, I forgive. Those are the kinds of advocates our people need. That's the kind of advocate that Sally was. So dear family and friends, please know that Sally's light is not extinguished. It lives on in each of her children and grandchildren. It lives on in the thousands of students she protected and advocated for so many years. And yes, when we walk into our little sanctuary this year, the tablets will be broken, but they will be present. She will be missed, but she is there, and she is in your home. I envision her knocking on the door today, knocking on the doors of heaven and taking charge a little bit. Meeting all of those people she handwrote cards for and connecting and advocating. As we enter this period of national renewal, I wish you strength on this journey of personal grief and personal renewal, knowing that her memory lives on. Yehi Zichra Baruch. We invite Emma Diamond, special family friend, to say a few words.
Hi, everyone. For anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Emma. Julie has been my best friend and business partner for the last 8 years. Shortly after becoming close with Julie, I was swept into the world of Nana and Papa. This dynamic duo of pure heart and kindness with a love story that felt almost too fairy tale-like to believe. Upon getting to know them more, I learned that Nana is the star of the show, of the entire Kramer Oshins family, and Papa is the adorable counterpart who is so thrilled to let her shine. As Julie, our friends, and I have navigated the world of dating in New York City, which at times can admittedly feel bleak, we have all, and I mean all, looked to them as our North Star for what true love should embody. They are, and always will be, the blueprint. To be entirely honest, I got to know Nana not so much from the amount of time we spent physically together, but from viewing her through the eyes of those closest to her. I was lucky enough to be with Julie countless times as she received a call from Nana to check in, to say hi, to share a specific update about some very specific situation, to yenta, or just to say I love you. I cherished those times. I loved seeing Julie's face light up as she answered to hear Nana's cheerful voice, filled with so much enthusiasm and warmth. It was like the phone call equivalent of a giant hug, and I know how deeply that will be missed by all of you. The hardest reality is, no time is ever enough. I know she was lucky to live a beautiful, long life surrounded by children and grandchildren that brought her so much pride. I know that in theory that should make it all easier, but somehow it always feels like we were robbed. When you love someone that deeply, no amount of time with them would ever suffice. I lost my mom 8 years ago, and something I'd like to share with you all, because I wish someone said it to me at the time, is that when there's a love that deep, it never goes away, ever. When you're that connected to someone, there is absolutely nothing that can take that away from you. You will continue to feel her as strongly as you do today for the rest of your lives. When we're that bonded with someone, nothing can change that, not even death. It doesn't make the physical loss easier. It doesn't help the longing you feel to hug her or hear her voice, but her essence will never leave you. You'll feel her in everything you do, and you'll notice she comes to you when you need her most. I am just one of many who will join your family in keeping her memory alive, in remembering her vivacity, her warmth, her love, her enthusiasm. We are all aware of the legend that is Sally Oshins, and I speak for so many when I say it is an absolute honor to have been able to experience the way in which you all love her. Your dedication, your care, all of it. You all made her feel safe and loved until her final breath, and I hope you can take some comfort in knowing just how right you did by her. It was absolutely heartwarming to see and a true testament to your heart and to your bond. When I lost my mom, Julie and her family band around me, not just in that time, but in the years that have since passed. My promise to you all is that we will all band around you. We were all blessed to have been touched by your beautiful Nana, and I speak for all of us in saying she will be in our hearts forever.
I do want to start out that when I saw the UPS gentleman come in, I knew she was really loved by everybody. Today we gather to remember and celebrate the life of a woman who was fierce as she was loving, as stubborn as she was strong. I've known my mother-in-law for 35 years, and in all that time, there's one thing I've learned. She was never afraid to speak her mind. And oh, how she could do it with that unmistakable, no-nonsense attitude of hers when she disagreed with you. I remember when I first met Rod's mother, I was the one who was about to steal away her baby boy. I admit I wasn't a good sharer. She, wait, I can almost hear her saying, who's she? The cat's mother. Sorry, Ma. Sally would look at me with that smile and say, always, she said, just wait till you're a mother. And 2 sons later, well, she was right. I hated when she was right. But in that moment, I knew that her wisdom, though hard to swallow, was a gift. Sally and I, well, we didn't always see eye to eye. Maybe didn't always is an understatement. We could clash, and we could argue. She was a hell of a tough broad. But so was I. Stubborn, yes. Headstrong, absolutely. There was no room for anything less between us. But there was something about that strength and that fire that I grew to love. And I think that's exactly why Rod married me. He essentially married his mother. And Jody, for that matter, because they were the same person. From early on, it was important to Sally for me to call her mom. And of course, in true Vicky style, we argued about that. But I found my own way in time. It was so important for me to make her laugh. I loved making her laugh. So I tried something new, and I just started to call her Mama. And I would say it loud, and I would say it strong, and it stuck, and it became our thing. It became our bond. In those last days, we spoke a lot and honest about the challenges we'd faced together, about the times we butted heads. We laughed about it. But I told her how much I admired her bravery, her strength, and even her humor throughout her illness. The courage, I can't even. The fight, Evander Holyfield has nothing on her. And for a woman who could complain as a sheer sport, her fortitude was unparalleled. I had the chance to tell her so many times how much I loved her and how thankful I was for everything she brought into my life and my children's lives. We were both stubborn, and we were both a pain in the ass. We were headstrong women. Maybe that's what made the Oshins men attracted to us. But at the end of the day, I know she was a woman who deeply and fiercely loved her family, her friends, her loved ones, and most of all, her grandchildren. They were the light that shone in her heart and her eyes. She was someone who would never back down from a challenge, even when the odds were against her. So as we say goodbye to Mama today, I want to believe that she's in a better place right now. Rest easy, Ma, and give my parents a kiss for me. And please, for heaven's sake, don't complain about the accommodations. We'll miss you more than words can say. Thank you for everything. You were one of a kind.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming today. We have a tradition that says this is the greatest mitzvah that can be done, because there's no way for the one being remembered to pay it back. So thank you again. I'm Donald Kramer, and I have the great honor to be Jody's husband and most favored son-in-law to David and Sally, simply by the mere fact that I'm their only son-in-law. I'd like to send a special thank you and acknowledgement to Dr. Kanner, Dr. Akhtar, the staff at River Spring, and the staff at Calvary. Your dedication and compassion were truly a gift from above and gave us a great comfort every day during this ordeal. I also want to say Yasher Koach to her other family, the SAR family. We could not turn around without bumping into someone offering help, calling to check up, sending soup or a meal, arranging for her hair and nails to be done, lending a hand, or giving a shoulder to lean on. You exhibit what it means to be a community and the idea of Avat Yisrael. This has been a very tough and hard time for us, and it's been so painful. And as I told Jody, this is the price we pay for unconditional love. But we have 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 or 75 years of memories. And it's a small price to pay this pain for all of those memories. On Friday, Rabbi Krauss returned a call to Jody, and after saying hello, his next words, drenched in compassion, were, "What can we do to help?" When we met after Shabbos, I told him, this is what it's all about. If you can teach the students at SAR to have this kind of compassion, then like the story of Hillel standing on one foot to explain the Torah, the rest of their learning is just commentary. I also want to acknowledge the heroic efforts of my wife, Jody, who truly earned her medical degree through all of this. My father-in-law, David, my brother and sister-in-law, Rod and Vicky, their kids, and especially my three daughters, Carly, Julie, and Emily. The incredible selflessness you displayed every day for Nana was incredible. Every day somebody was visiting and doing. Every day you took time from your busy lives to help out in any way possible, whether at the hospital, River Spring, or five-star residence, where most people saw one or two visitors maybe on occasion, or maybe not at all. It seemed like we had an army there all the time helping and supporting both David and Sally. Carly may be living in Philadelphia, but she came as often as possible. Emily and Julie, you hardly missed a day. From November onward, coming to visit her and aiding her and doing everything that you could. It was not possible for any of you to do any more than you did. And it was not possible to be any more proud of you than I am. May all of you here have a family that puts the differences aside and focuses on the priorities like they did every day, month after month. Sally was born and raised in the Bronx, with the exception of a 6-month stint in Florida. Before moving to Riverdale in 1973, she grew up on the Grand Concourse at number 1100 in the shadow of Yankee Stadium. She never missed an opportunity to remind us that the concourse was the Fifth Avenue of the Bronx. She was a 1953 graduate of Taft High School and worked as a secretary in New York, including a stint at the Carnation Company, before she found her calling at SAR in the business office. She spent 48 years there and became the encyclopedia and historian of this amazing school. With an aversity to technology, she managed to remember names and addresses and details in the greatest computer of all, our brains. Until the end, she could recall the names and addresses of students from 30 or 40 years ago. She remembered their parents' names and the kids' transportation schedule to and from school. And if there was a problem, she was their bubby, making sure everything was taken care of and those kids were safe. But if there was a problem, she would let you know, and she would tell you without any sugarcoating. If you think back on your school that you attended or schools that you attended, you may remember all or most of your teachers. You may remember your principal. But there's nowhere else on earth that anybody's going to say they remembered somebody in the business office who was a secretary. In one word, she was a presence. Whether it was a smiling face at SAR greeting students, helping a family navigate the transportation to and from the school, dealing with business-related issues at SAR, or fighting for what she thought was right, she was a presence. But it was not only at SAR, at home or out, she let you know she meant business when she needed to. She was a mama bear defending her family, and she made sure that nobody was going to take advantage or shortchange her or the family. She said, "You pay money, you get honey." And with this mantra, she left restaurant staff shaking in their boots and store personnel wishing they never made the mistake that they did. She enjoyed mahjong, rummy cube, true crime stories, and Turner classic movies. She was also a world traveler. She circled the globe many times, but she didn't need to go to London, Tel Aviv, or Tokyo. Her world was the Bronx, Stu Leonard's in Costco, Central Avenue in Westchester, Tarrytown, New York, Trumbull, Connecticut, and occasional stops in Binghamton, Syracuse, Oneonta, and a few other locations. While so many of us search to the world to find new things, she found everything she needed in a 50-mile radius of New York City. And finally, she had a good sense of humor. Just last week, as the end was near, hospital workers came into her room to check on her and fix her sheets in her bed. And when they asked, "Are you comfortable?" she replied, "Machen 11." Jody and I started out our marriage with Sally and I not getting along very well. While usually cordial and polite, we didn't see eye to eye on many things and many times butted heads. With David and Sally seemingly at our apartment every weekend, at first it didn't make it any better. But with all those visits and the desire for our relationship to be better, it slowly did improve. Things improved, and I started to feel more comfortable that I could start to appreciate and have fun with her. One day I called SAR as I needed to ask her about something and decided to have a little fun. When she got on the phone, I said I was from Katav Publishing and that we had a shipment coming to SAR, and it was coming COD and they needed a check for $7,500. She got so mad. We never have COD shipments. We pay our bills. Why are you doing this? There has to be a mistake. After letting her rant, I started to giggle and told her it was me. If she could reach her hands through the phone, she would have strangled me right then and there. Many of us know the musical group Rascal Flatts. They wrote a great song called Bless the Road. In the lyrics that include the title, they wrote, God bless the broken road that led me to you. I feel that this is very fitting for my relationship with Sally. It certainly wasn't a straight, smooth path to get where we eventually ended, where I can say proudly, I love my mother-in-law. But we have a more special relationship because of that road. In the end, together we got to a great place, and I'm grateful for that, for her kindness, her strength, and her love. Throughout our travels on the broken road, she always said, you're gonna miss me. She couldn't be more right. I'm truly going to miss her.
Presenting Sally's beautiful grandchildren, we'll hear from Jake and Marley and then Jody.
Yeah, what the hell's going on? Okay. Over the last 10 months, I learned more about my Nana than I had ever known. I obviously knew about her unconditional love for her kids and grandkids and how she spoiled us since birth, but I had never questioned the why or how until a few months ago. I never thought to ask anything as a kid because when you're a kid, that's just who they are. They're your grandparents. You don't realize they had lives before. Just the same way I'm sure that the kids at SAR think that Nana and Papa were built with the building. But her story, their story really, because let's face it, it was Nana and Papa, Sally and David, never just one or the other. Their story is incredible, and I was able to talk to Nana and Papa a lot about it, and I won't go into as much detail as we did, but here are the key takeaways. These two were made to be together. They were put on this earth for one another and found each other almost immediately. Children was the goal for Nana very early on, but that goal didn't come to fruition for quite some time after they got married. After 7 years of trying, Jody's birth felt like a miracle, and a few years later, my father's birth was nothing short of one. Health or fate was never going to get in the way of Nana and Papa's dreams. In fact, in the years to come, nothing and no one was ever going to get in the way of Nana, period. She forged her path with a determination stronger than every manager at every business establishment on earth combined. When Nana and Papa found out that they were going to become grandparents for the first time, it was, quote, the best feeling in the world. When they found out about becoming grandparents for the second time, it was again the best feeling in the world. And with each grandkid that followed, it was, quote, an unbearable burden that's weight was too much to carry, and we have only felt deep regret for the last 30 years about having children in the first place. The drugs toward the end there were pretty strong, so I take everything she said with a grain of salt, but I'm sure she loved you guys. Anyway, truly, each and every one of us was a miracle because children of their own were never a guarantee, and to have grandchildren as well was truly unbelievable. Growing up, we were spoiled not with gifts, but with quality time. Rocking Horse Ranch, Kutcher's, places that we could be together and have experiences that would last longer than any materialistic thing ever could. She spoke about how she could never be a Florida grandmother and watch her grandkids grow up from afar. That is part of the legacy she left behind, and everything she and Papa have done for us will live in our hearts and minds for the rest of our lives. The last 10 months were grueling and unfair to a woman that deserved none of it. I knew how strong-willed she was and how hard she fought, but I also knew that that couldn't have been the only reason that she stayed with us as long as she did. Then I thought, God must have seen what was happening to her and said, oh no, there's no way she's coming here this soon. But not exactly like that. More in the way that those Kutchers or Rocking Horse Ranch managers said it with fear in their eyes as she was walking towards the front desk. So it was more like, oh no, there's no way she's coming here this soon. She just got here. How is there a problem already? I mean, let's face it, in her lifelong quest of fighting to give her family everything she felt we deserved, God is the final boss of managers for Nana. He wanted her here for as long as possible. She will enter wherever she is going, saying, "Excuse me," before anyone greets her. She will make sure that place is not too hot or too cold, that no food is dried out, and that all bathrooms have towel racks on them before she ever settles in. As a family, we all talked about how it was never supposed to be this way, but I think this might have actually been exactly what she wanted. To get to whatever is next first, so that she can make sure it's perfect for all of us when we get there.
My sweet Nana was a woman of longevity in every aspect of her life. Her beauty, age, style, humor, relationships, friendships, her job, and especially her stories. She had thousands of them, and every time I'd see her, there was always a new one she was eager to share with me. And I'd sit and listen in awe of her memory and ability to recall detailed stories from so long ago. It fascinated me, and after every story, she'd always tell me, ask questions. You never know when someone might not be there to answer them. So I made sure I always had a question to ask her when I knew I was visiting. It was so important to her that I knew about our family and our history, and I cherished that value of hers. Her words held so much importance to me, not only in her stories, but in her advice. Any problem I had, Nana always shared her 2 cents. It might not always been what I wanted to hear, or politically correct for that matter, but she always knew it'd get better. She was so hopeful for me and filled with pride when I overcame something, just like she knew I would. She was such a proud grandmother, especially when it came to school. It was the most important thing for her that I got a good mark on all my tests and projects. Hearing her cheer, "Oh, that's wonderful, Mar," and feeling her smile through the phone always made the hard work feel worth it. Nana won't get to hear about my good marks anymore as I continue college. She won't get to see me graduate or get a job in something that I love. But I know my angel will be watching down on me, doing everything she aspired for me. And it will all be for her. I could stand here and share endless memories and conversations I had with Nana, but that's what the rest of my life is for, to share her legacy with the world. As sorrowful and broken that I am over the loss of my Nana, funerals to me should be not full of just mourning, but rather a celebration of life. Nana lived a long and fulfilling life. She was the most lively person I've ever known. As someone who has a hard time sitting with the thought of death, it makes it difficult to think of this whole experience in a spiritual light. But my Nana had a soul that danced. The very last time I saw Nana, she wasn't physically Nana, but her soul was. I could see it in her faint smile, and it was dancing. And it still is in this room now with everyone. She's probably doing the cha-cha right now, seeing how many people showed up for her. We honestly thought this whole cancer thing was just a ploy for attention. You always had to have the spotlight, Nan, didn't you? Not only that, but my Nana was the epitome of a Jewish grandmother, and I adored everything about it. She always made sure I had something to eat when I came to visit the apartment. "David, go make Marley some eggs." "David, is that juice gluten-free?" "David, go get Marley a snack while I get the photo albums." And she was full of loving gifts. "David, give Mar some money." "David, did you give Mar the $10? "David, go get Mar's gift from the car." It was always a team effort. But I have to say, it's the only team I will ever root for. Papa, your relationship with Nana, is the standard of love in my eyes. You two have shown me what true unconditional love is, and I'm certainly not the only one. My own parents are already turning into the future Sally and David Oshins, and I love to see it. But you sure have set the bar high, Pop. I mean, it's obvious that all your grandchildren are single for a reason. But in all seriousness, seeing you together always put a smile on my face. My heart aches for you, Papa, but know we are all here for you, and we all carry Nana in our hearts. You will never, ever be far from her as long as you're with us. Dad told me how yesterday you were in the car and very overwhelmed by all the love that we've shown you. You and Nana built that. We all learned it from you guys. And as for you, Nana, my Shayna, your memory will forever live on, and I will make sure to keep asking questions and to tell your stories and to show off your jewelry and your SAR merch and to send my food back to the kitchen if it wasn't cooked to absolute perfection. You are an incredibly special woman, not only to your family, but to every single person you cross paths with in your long and beautiful lifetime. I love you so, so, so much, my Shayna Madel. I was always your angel, and now you are mine.
Writing this eulogy was the hardest task I have ever had to take on, not just because it feels impossible to put into words the way that my Nana has shaped every aspect of our lives, but because I have never had to talk about my Nana and Papa as separate entities before. They have always just been one, Nana and Papa. They are in all of our phones as Nana and Papa. Their Facebook name is David Sally Oshins, their email davesal3@hotmail.com. And although I have always logically known that one of two variations of today would have to take place, nothing could have prepared me for what it would be like for there to be one without the other. I believe the rarity of my grandparents, the love they had for us, but more specifically, the love they had for each other, was something we were profoundly aware of long before we were able to truly understand such a concept. Every phase of our lives has been defined by their presence. When we were little, they would spend every weekend at our house. We would see their car pull up, and the time it would take for them to walk from the end of the driveway into the garage was simply too much time. Of course, the three of us had to run out of the house to greet them at their car the second they got out of it. Now, if you spent any time with us as kids, you know that ritual came to be because, of course, it had to be a race between us for whoever was going to be the first to hug and kiss them hello. Now, when it came to saying goodbye, the ritual was different. They would stay as late as they could, usually until my mom was on her fifth time of repeating, "All right, Dad, it's late. I don't want you driving." And we would be standing at the top of the stairs begging them not to leave. We would finally admit defeat, our persistent requests of getting them to stay just a little longer concluded, and goodbyes began. To this day, it has always consisted of saying, "I love you. I love you more. No, I love you more. No, I love you the most," and could only conclude once Carly would finally say, "Well, I've loved you the longest," which Emily and I couldn't really argue with. Who loved them most was a constant battle in our house, whose turn it was for the solo sleepover at their apartment, who got to sit next to them at dinner, who got to be the one to drive in their car, even if we were only going a couple minutes away. When my mom and Nana would speak on the phone for the 10th time that day, we would go into my mom and impatiently wait for her to wrap things up until we would finally hear her say, "Okay, the girls want to say hello." And then, of course, we would fight over who got to take the phone first. Nanny, I love you the most. Nana was perfection personified. The essence of her feels impossible to explain because it's so hard to imagine that someone so incredible existed in the first place, let alone got to be our Nana. Nan, you have given us everything we could need out of this life. The warmest, most unconditional love, endless and often unsolicited advice, the most incredible cousins, constant and unwavering support, the pride you felt in everything each one of your grandkids did, no matter how small the accomplishment. Now we're gonna have to wait a few more years to find out whether or not we inherited your perfect skin, but so far so good. But most importantly, you gave us the ability to witness the love between you and Papa. A love so beautiful that if you weren't my own grandparents, I don't think I'd believe it was real. For 10 months, through the worst and most painful time imaginable, I was able to see the way my Papa showed up for, as he would say, the love of his life. He refused to miss a day by her side, would not rest until he understood every word of the medical jargon thrown his way. I watched as she would often move her hand just slightly, and he would instantly grab it, knowing how much she needed him to hold it. He was selfless, devoted, and endlessly hopeful that she would get better. He was everything she deserved and more. Nana, too, was fiercely protective of him till the end. There has been a lot of conversation between all of us about the last few days and the last few things that Nana was able to say. In her final days, she lost the ability to communicate, and each word we were able to make out became overwhelmingly impactful. The day we moved her into hospice, we thought she had completely lost her ability to talk. That is until a nurse told me that the night before, as she was repositioning Nana, apparently not as comfortably as she would have liked, Nana somehow managed to say to her, "I will crack your neck." But the last sentence I heard her clearly say, which perfectly captures the immensity of her love for Papa, was about a week ago when we were all leaving to go back home. Papa gave her a kiss goodnight, and she looked at him and said, "David, don't you eat any of that fattening cake." Nana, as I said before, you gave us everything we could need out of life, and because of that, you have set us up to somehow find a way to be okay in your absence. Not just because of the life skills and lessons you have bestowed upon us, but because you gave us Mommy, your right arm, the most perfect embodiment of every single thing incredible about you. As my dad would often say, it's not that my mom and Nana were an example of the apple not falling far from the tree, it's that the apple never disconnected from the tree in the first place. My mom was an inspiration to all of us these past few months. She was Nana's fearless and fiercest advocate. She went from playing a doctor on TV to being one step away from being a requested presence in the OR. She made Nana feel safe every day because she knew damn well that no one would make a single move without my mom say so. Mommy, you are our hero. Nanny, I love you more than I could ever say, and Emmy loves you oh much, and Carly has loved you the longest. But the fact of the matter is, it's a love that is truly too much to measure. There is no way any of us could love you more than the other. The 3 of us love you more. The 6 of us love you more than anyone could possibly love another person. There is not a day that will go by where we won't miss you, think of you, and feel your absence in a way that is almost too painful to comprehend. But Nan, I will forever take comfort in knowing that I am now able to fulfill your greatest wish. I promise I will never ask you to take another sip of water.
Rod Oshins.
Look, Ma, I'm back on stage. Before I share my remarks, Dad wrote something that I'm going to have Ben read. So just a paragraph. There's no way he'd be able to do it himself. So.
Bear with me. How can I put into words to tell you how much she was loved by everyone who knew her, and especially me for over 76 years, and especially our children and 6 of the most wonderful grandchildren. I could go on, but my heart is broken. So I'll just say, rest in peace, my love, till we meet again.
Thank you, Rabbi Krause, Rabbi Hartstock, Rabbi Dralick, and every one of you who has joined us this morning in support of my dad, our family, and to honor the life and the memory of my beautiful mom, Sally. In consideration of everybody's time and the fact that I have been known to break down during a Kleenex commercial, I will try to keep my comments brief. Throughout her 90 years and 7 months to the day, in a very profound and impactful way, my mom touched the lives of many, many people from every facet of her life, including generations of waiters and waitresses and restaurant managers who came to rue the day that they were ever born, when they made the cardinal sin of serving her a meal that didn't quite live up to her expectations. Hell hath no fury like Sally being served a dry piece of chicken, or God forbid the exact opposite, that same piece of dried chicken but swimming in the sauce that was supposed to be served on the side. I'll have the turkey breast dry on the plate. That was a familiar refrain. And God help them if they screwed it up, because if they did, they would get it right back in their heads. Mom's true loves were her family, her friends, her children, her children's friends, her grandchildren, and from what we heard from Emma earlier, her grandchildren's friends. She surrounded herself with those people, and those people naturally flocked to her. And in addition to the family that she and my father created, Mom was a devoted member of another family for over 48 years, her SAR Academy family, many of whom are with us today and whose love and support over the past 10 months will surely never be forgotten by Jody, myself, and especially my dad, who SAR adopted as one of their own almost 30 years ago. Jody and I wouldn't even know where to begin to thank you all, but would like to recognize one member of that family, Dr. Barry Kanner, who went above and beyond for us and was our lifeline since day one 10 months ago. We would also like to extend our love and gratitude to Deborah May, Deborah Ice, and Hillary Buff. Thank you all. The story of Sally begins and ends with my dad. A greater love story has yet to be written. And like a line from one of Mom's favorite songs, theirs was more than the greatest love the world has known. Childhood sweethearts from the age of 14, 76 years together, 68 and a half married. Yes, to each other. And if you're doing the math, 1949 was the beginning of their own, thankfully far less violent version of A Bronx Tale. David and Sally, Sally and David. It's all any of us ever knew. And as the years went on, the love my mother had for my father was multiplied when her miracle babies arrived. And then again, when Jody and I realized our own love stories, modeled after theirs, if we could only be so lucky. Vicki and Donald were welcomed with open arms as if they were hers. Maybe not so much at first, but they grew on her. And the love completely exploded with the births of each of their 6 grandchildren, some of whom we heard from incredible eulogies today. To further illustrate the sentiment, a few words about how the last 10 months went down, from diagnosis to hospitalizations in 5 different hospitals, to rehab, to the 5-star Premier residence just up the street. In those 10 months, there wasn't a day, except maybe one snow day in December, where Jody and I had to beg my father not to drive to the hospital, that Mom was ever alone. And the efforts of my nieces and my children to be by their Nana's side they were nothing short of extraordinary. From trying to make head or tail out of reams of medical bills and insurance forms to endless stream of bone broth and chocolate and vanilla shakes from Baskin-Robbins, the devotion and unconditional love the 6 of you showered Nana with was unlike anything that anyone had ever seen, including the medical staff at multiple facilities. At one point, we were told by the oncologist that in her estimation, the continuous love and support that was showered upon my mom from her family far outweighed any chemo treatments that she possibly ever could have received. And that was all thanks to Carly and Julie and Emmy and Jacob and Ben and Marley. Not to be outdone, Vicki and Donald, you were always right there. As always, when we needed you the most. And for that, we will be eternally grateful. Jody and I could not have been blessed with better partners. To Jody, my mom's best friend and her most fervent advocate, what can I say? Mom could not possibly have had a more diligent champion on her side and in her corner. You were on top of every My Chart entry and sometimes way ahead of a slew of medical students who were shoved down our throats at Columbia. Once again, all of that Marcus Welby, MD, and medical center you watched when we were growing up really paid off. You have my full permission to Shirley MacLaine any of my doctors and nurses in the future. They will not know what hit them. Mom, you will live in my heart forever and in the hearts of our children. The lessons you taught me about always doing the right thing and thinking before I spoke or acted, I have always tried to instill in my own children. Your encyclopedic knowledge of old movies helped shape my love of the golden age of Hollywood. Your ability to not only know the year a movie was released, but to recall which theater in the Bronx you saw it in and who you were with, and what you were wearing never ceased to amaze me. And my kids were blown away by your memory. And although it was never my favorite, you told me that when I went off to college 40 years ago this week, that every time I passed the salad bar at the dining hall, I shouldn't pass up the broccoli because it was good for me, and it would be winking at me. To this day, I can't look at a piece of broccoli without it looking back at me. Quite frankly, it's terrifying. But because of you, I promise you, I will continue to eat it. Thank you for everything, Mom. I love you. I always have. I always will.
In a moment, I'll ask Dr. Larry Lerner to lead us in the Kel Maleh, the memorial prayer. The funeral procession will immediately proceed. After we conclude, we'll go past the driveway of SAR Academy to give Kavod Acharon to our beloved Sally. And from there, for those who are able, we'll continue to King David Memorial Gardens, 10 Mill Street, Putnam Valley, New York. Rabbi Moshe Drelech will lead the burial service in Putnam Valley. Shiva at the home of Rod and Vicky Oshins, 94 Barnes Avenue in Tarrytown. Barnes Road in Tarrytown. And at the home of Jody and Donald Kramer, 150 Putting Green Road in Trumbull, Connecticut. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday in Tarrytown. Thursday in Connecticut, every night from 5:30 to 8:30, with the Mincha prayer at 7 p.m.
Over the span of 40 years, Sally Oshins watched over my children and grandchildren. Thank you for the privilege of helping her memory be remembered. El Molei Rachamim Shoichein Pamroyimim Hamitzei Menucha Nichono Tachas Kanfei Ashchino B'ma'alois kedoshim utahorim Kizoy har harakiya mazhirim Es nishmas Saratova bas velvol v'chana Shehol chol yolamo Ba'avur Sha'anachnu mispalim Li'iloya nishmaso B'gan Eden Tehei menuchaso Lochein bal harachamim Yastirehu b'sesek knofov Li'olamim V'yitzror b'tzorachayim es nishmaso Adoyinoihu nachloso V'tonuach B'shalom Al mishkovo V'noyamah